Have you ever wondered where I should really live after 70? Perhaps you've spent decades imagining a peaceful old age surrounded by your children and grandchildren. Or maybe you dream of a peaceful retirement, where you can finally prioritize your own comfort. But here's the big question that few people dare to ask out loud. Is living with your children automatically the best choice, or could it leave you lonelier than ever? Stay with me, because for the next few minutes we're going to delve into a reality that countless older people face in silence. We'll explore the unspoken tensions that exist in a multi-generational family. Guilt over choosing to live alone and the reasons why a care home isn't always the scary last step you imagine. If you've ever wondered whether your illusions about family life might be causing you hidden sadness, keep watching. Your choices matter more than you think, and the truth may surprise you. Before I continue, I'd like to know who is watching this video and who is concerned about this topic. If you're already wondering where to live, type 1 in the comments. Otherwise, type 0. I really want to know where we stand on this issue. Velis arrives silently, often disrupting our lives in small ways rather than through drastic changes. One day you feel fine, you can manage your work and your travels. The next day you realize that the steps are steeper or that you're a little more tired than usual. Gradually the question arises, how and where do I want to spend this phase of my life? This is a delicate subject that many people avoid because it touches on deep emotions. Dignity, independence, loneliness, and the hidden desire to be recognized by those we love and cherish. We often think that living with our adult children is the ultimate expression of family love. We imagine warm conversations, daily closeness, and unwavering support. But as the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer points out, illusions can be one of the main causes of human suffering. One powerful illusion is that old age automatically guarantees our children unwavering love, respect, and attention. We're not here to point fingers or judge anyone's family situation. Life is demanding for adult children. There are bills to pay, professional responsibilities, children to raise, endless household chores. However, for elderly parents, there is an almost instinctive desire for reciprocity. I've been looking after them for decades, you might say. They won't return the favor now that I need company. But this brings us to a harsh reality. Family unity doesn't automatically flourish under the same roof. Sometimes forced or purely logistical cohabitation leaves everyone exhausted or disappointed. Parents wonder why conversations are rare, and adult children wonder why they can't live up to an ideal of constant, joyful care. In this video, we'll look at how to approach each possible scenario: living with your children, living alone, or thinking about a retirement home. We'll share real testimonies from older people who have faced these issues. We'll highlight the main philosophical reflections and offer you a conclusion on how to find greater serenity, whichever path you choose. In the end, you'll see that the real question may not be, should I live with my children alone or in a care home? But rather, which option allows me to live with more serenity, dignity, and authenticity? It's a crucial distinction that could change your future in ways you never imagined. But before we go any further, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the notification bell if you like these reflective discussions on deep life issues. Trust me, we have more ideas that you won't want to miss. First topic, the illusion of family life. Many older people dream of spending their old age surrounded by their children and grandchildren like an endless family party. The media often shows 3 generations sitting around a table laughing and chatting. It's a charming image, isn't it? Unfortunately, the reality is often more complex. Today's adult children lead hectic lives. They juggle their careers, raising their own children and daily challenges. Even if they love their parents with all their heart, time is limited. Their attention is fragmented by phone notifications, work worries, social events, and the myriad tasks that dominate modern life. So what happens when an elderly parent moves in with them, expecting to receive continuous care or to have constant conversations? They may benefit from basic amenities and assistance, shopping, helping with household chores, family meals, but they often feel invisible in a busy household. The corner of the sofa becomes a waiting place rather than a place where warm exchanges can take place. Grandchildren walk past with headphones on, immersed in their digital world, and grown-up children come home from work exhausted, saying to themselves, "I'm going to see mom or dad tomorrow." Where does this leave older people? They can feel abandoned, even though they are physically present in the family home. As Schopenhauer reminds us, it's dangerous to assume that everyone around us can meet our emotional needs. Children may not realize how much their parents need a meaningful relationship. Parents may not realize how short their children's time and energy is. Mini interruption. Take a break and ask yourself if you or someone you know has experienced a similar situation. Enter 2 in the comments if this speaks to you or someone you know. Otherwise, enter 3. Your feedback will help us determine whether these situations are common or rare. Let's take a real-life example. A widowed mother moves in with her daughter and her family. She imagines long conversations over coffee, helping her grandchildren with their homework and a close daily relationship. A month passes and she discovers that her daughter leaves early for work and arrives exhausted, that her son-in-law is kind but reserved, and that her grandchildren hardly ever take their eyes off the screens. During the day, she is alone in front of the television. Even dinner is usually eaten in a hurry or in several meals. Someone has to answer her emails, someone else disappears to finish their tasks. There are no violent arguments or shouting, but the mother feels more alone than in her old home. Physically, she's at the center of everything, but emotionally, she's on the sidelines. How can I feel more isolated here under the same roof as my family than when I lived alone? She asks herself. Schopenhauer's vision. True love doesn't require constant presence. It respects each individual's need for independence, space, and daily rhythm. When you impose a way of life on people without taking into account their personality, their agenda, and their real emotional capacity, you run the risk of creating exactly the loneliness you were hoping to avoid. If you're thinking of moving in with your adult children, ask yourself honestly, am I ready to live a life that may not correspond to my ideal? Would I feel comfortable if I actually spent more time alone than with other people? Will I be able to express my needs, or will I silently wait to be noticed? Second topic, the guilt of wanting to live separately. Now let's look at the other side of the coin, preferring to live alone rather than with children. For many older people, independence is non-negotiable. Having your own space, however modest, a small apartment or a small house, can be a profound source of dignity. But there is also a sense of guilt. I'm selfish for not moving in with my children. They will interpret my decision as a rejection of their help or presence. Some fear the judgment of society. Why choose to live alone? Don't you want to be part of your family? From a practical perspective, living alone can offer older people the freedom to maintain their routines. You can get up when you want, have your meals at a time that suits you, arrange your furniture as you wish, and simply enjoy the discreet pleasure of controlling your environment. It can also preserve your emotional well-being, because you are no longer a secondary actor in someone else's life. You are the main character in your own space. Consider a man who lost his wife and was encouraged by his adult son to move in with him to keep him company. The father hesitated. He loved his family deeply, but something inside him resisted. He feared losing what little independence he had left, i.e., the ability to make daily decisions without having to conform to someone else's rules. Finally, he chose a small apartment not far from his son's house. He was alone there, but not lonely. He could still enjoy Sunday lunches at his son's house and attend events organized by his grandchildren. But at the end of the day, he returned to his own nest, a space that allowed him to feel whole, not reduced or dependent. Schopenhauer's reflection. Pain usually arises when we struggle with the reality of our constantly changing situation or when we over-idealize a specific arrangement. By embracing the freedom to choose a separate space, you can prevent your individuality from slowly disappearing. Wait, you may be thinking, What if I have mobility problems or need help with everyday life? Even in these cases, there are creative solutions. Hiring a part-time carer, coordinating visits from loved ones, or choosing a retirement home that respects autonomy. Living alone doesn't mean being totally isolated, but it does preserve the right to shape the environment according to one's own nature. Third topic, the often misunderstood reality of retirement homes. Now let's tackle a taboo subject, retirement homes or institutions for the elderly. For many people, the idea of moving into a care home brings fear and sadness. They imagine it as a last resort, a place where someone goes to be forgotten. Cultural discourse often equates this with a family's inability to care for their own, but this perception is always accurate. Let's see how illusions can influence our view of things. One gentleman, let's call him Robert, resisted the idea of entering a nursing home for years, despite the physical difficulties that made his daily life difficult. "I'm not going to spend my last days stuck in a place where nobody cares about me," he said. But as his health problems worsened, his children gently convinced him that a specialized environment could bring him more comfort, safer living conditions, and a sense of community. At first, he dreaded the idea. He imagined empty corridors, bored staff, and depressed residents staring at the television. But after a few weeks, Robert realized that his new environment offered daily activities, on-site care, social gatherings, and the opportunity to make friends facing similar challenges. He even reconnected with an old acquaintance. Suddenly, he was swapping stories instead of sitting alone. No, not everything was perfect. Not all nursing homes are well-run, and some clearly need improvements in terms of staff, facilities, or general atmosphere. But for Robert, this new step gave him a sense of belonging. He no longer had to wait for phone calls that never came. He had neighbors he could visit in the living room. His children still visited him, but their visits seemed more sincere, more affectionate, because everyone knew he was receiving regular care. The main caveat: not all care homes are created equal. If you're considering this option, do your research, ask questions, read reviews, talk to the residents' families. Some facilities really do foster a sense of community. Others can be purely institutional. Schopenhauer observed that accepting the constant evolution of life can bring peace. If you thought of a care home as a punishment, you would hate every minute of it. But if you see it as an opportunity to be safe, receive professional support, and make new friends, it can be a surprisingly dynamic option. Fourth topic, unspoken expectations and the myth of reward. One of the deepest wounds of aging parents is the feeling that I've given my children everything for decades. I don't deserve the same in return. They remember the sleepless nights, the savings for studies, the personal sacrifices. But the pace of life today rarely corresponds to such reciprocity. Children are not always ungrateful. They are often overwhelmed by the pressures of modern life, busy schedules, financial difficulties, emotional fatigue. Love still exists, but it is more often expressed through quick phone calls, quick dinners, or monthly visits than through daily devotion. When an elderly parent interprets this as rejection, bitterness grows silently. Schopenhauer reminds us that disappointment is the clash between expectations and reality. If you secretly hope that your children will reward you for your decades of sacrifice, and that this reward should take the form of constant attention or cohabitation, you run the risk of exposing yourself to great disappointment. The realization: sometimes your adult children simply don't like you. They just live their lives. The attention you've given them has given them the foundation they need to become independent. This independence can lead to emotional and physical distancing. This is a natural process and not necessarily a moral failing on their part. This doesn't mean that your feelings aren't valid. You may feel neglected or devalued. The question is, how long will you let resentment invade your peace of mind? Reaching emotional maturity often means abandoning the idea that acts of love will always be reciprocated, especially after several decades and when roles have changed. Fifth topic, dependency and self-erosion. Another hidden danger arises with age. The line between asking for help and losing yourself can be extremely thin. It's perfectly understandable that as you get older you need help cooking, cleaning, taking your medication, or getting around. But does that mean you no longer have a say in how you spend your days? Often, the elderly silently give up all decision-making power when they move in with their children. The latter, with good intentions, can start making all the decisions. What time does mom wake up? What does dad eat? What channel to watch on TV? How to make the bed? Day by day, the elderly person's sense of autonomy diminishes. At first, it may seem like a relief. There's no more housework, no more chores to do. But over time, a new feeling of emptiness sets in. I don't live my life. I live out of someone else's schedule. Older people stop asking for small amounts of attention. They stop expressing their opinion because they don't want to get in the way. Schopenhauer's wisdom, true freedom, is an inner state of self-mastery and not just the absence of physical restrictions. Yes, you can be physically safe and comfortable, but if you've lost the ability to say no or I'd prefer something else, you run the risk of psychological confinement. Sometimes you can maintain your independence within a shared home if your family respects your opinion and you feel comfortable expressing your wishes. Other times, maintaining your independence may mean living alone or finding a supportive environment, including some facilities for the elderly, where you can still choose how to spend your day. Sixth topic, there is a correct answer. Considering all these scenarios, living with children, living alone, or moving into a retirement home, you may be asking yourself, what's the right solution for me? The honest answer is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Each path has potential advantages and disadvantages. Each is determined by the financial situation, state of health, family dynamics, and personal temperament. Living with your children can provide closeness, shared costs, and a sense of belonging to a family, but it risks amplifying frustrations if calendars, personalities, or emotional needs don't match. Living alone allows you to maintain your freedom and independence, but can lead to isolation if social ties are not maintained or if health problems become too great for you to deal with alone. A retirement home or facility for the elderly, on the other hand, offers professional care, social activities, and relief from the burden of family life. However, it is necessary to carry out extensive research to ensure that it is suitable. The key is to be honest with yourself and those close to you. Are you someone who values their personal space? Do you enjoy social interaction and want to be part of a community? Do you need daily medical help? Do you feel comfortable with your adult children seeing you and helping you in moments of vulnerability? A second crucial question arises. What illusions am I clinging to that no longer serve me? Perhaps you think that living with your children is the only sign of a successful family. Or maybe you think that living alone always means loneliness. Or you think that a retirement home means you've been written off. Challenging these illusions opens doors to more subtle possibilities. Mini interruption. If you're still here and find this conversation interesting, let us know by leaving a short comment. Enter 4 if you're rethinking your housing situation or that of a loved one. And if none of this applies to you personally, press 5.